Contacting the Ancient Ones and opening a portal in the space-time continuum, Aleister Crowley, Lamb, and Little Gray Men. This is Connecting the Dots, ladies and gentlemen. I have linked the swath of UFOs in 1947 to the Babylon working, as well as the Amalantra working from 1918. Now, if you have done any research into the Jack Parsons' work, into L. Ron Hubbard or Aleister Crowley, I'm sure you've heard of the Babylon workings as well as the Amalantra workings. And it was a series of rituals that lasted 3 months. First in 1918 from January to March, and then in 1946 from January to March. And I want to share with you a new section on the website at forums.leakproject.com. You can see right here, this is the website, the main website, leakproject.com. Just added a really cool section here. And you go to forums.leakproject.com, type that in, and then it'll pull up this new section which allows you to leave information that you feel is important that relates to the current topics and discussions. You can see extraterrestrial phenomena, UFOs, general discussion, geoengineering, terraforming, chemtrails, the latest headlines and news. And I just put this up yesterday, ladies and gentlemen. This is hot off the press. And there's a really cool section now where we can talk about the podcast and leave links and more information that's pertaining towards it, as well as check this out right here. I'm going to share this with you. I just put this up today. Yesterday when I did this show live, we had some serious issues and multitudes of people said, Rex, redo this. This is important. So I feel that as well. This is the new section you can see here. And at the top here, this is how in 1947, 6 months after the Babylon working, shortly after Aleister Crowley dies, the year is 1947, UFOs are seen flying over the White House, West Coast, East Coast, Midwest. Thousands of them. They even created what's called Project Blue Book. The Air Force did, closed it in 1969. It's 12 years later. But look at some of the connections here. If you look at the images of Cydonia, Mars. Cydonia, Mars is located at the 19.47 degree. It's 19.47 degrees from the equator. The same can be said for the red spot on Jupiter, a similar area found on Neptune. Here at home, pyramids are exact at 19.47 degrees north of the equator on the Yucatan Peninsula in Mexico. Also, according to this article that I found from bibliotechopalades.net, great website, by the way, you should check it out. There's information that there were pyramids discovered in Hawaii under jungle vegetation at 19.47 degrees north of the equator as well. Now, the OTO, a member of the OTO, started what's called the Cult of Lamb based on information, originally the foundations of what Crowley discovered when making contact with Lamb. Lamb looks like a gray. Let me show this with you real quick, these images right here. Where to go? Huh. There you go. You can see that. Aleister Crowley drew that. Looks very similar to the grays. Now, if you compare this with some files that were released, let me see if I can find this. Okay, these files right here are directly Freedom of Information Act, declassified. This was sent to the FBI, and this is a collection of papers and information of flying discs. And one thing that's a little bit spooky is right here, this information was from a source with multiple degrees. He says, do with this what you will, but these discs that you're seeing, many of these, do carry crews. Others are under remote control. You can see it right here. We just look at it. Their mission's peaceful. The visitors contemplate actually settling on this plane. These visitors are human-like, but much larger in size. Now let's take a time out here for a minute. I'm thinking of the geoengineering, the stratospheric aerosol injections, the terraforming of the Earth, this artificial construct that seems to be overtaking the organic structures here at home. So my question is it for them or is it for us? Who's it for? And much larger beings? Well, the Greys aren't much larger. It makes me think of the Anunnaki. The gods that were worshipped in Egypt, ancient Mesopotamia, still to this day. Now here's where it gets interesting. They are not Earth people, but from their own world. They do not come from a planet, as we use the word, but from an etheric planet which interpenetrates with our own. It is not perceptible to us, and the bodies of these visitors and the craft automatically materialize on entering the vibratory rate of our current matter. These disks possess a type of radiant energy or a ray which could easily disintegrate any attacking ship. Disintegrate. Wow. Imagine that. Gone. Gone. They re-enter the etheric plane at will and so simply disappear from our vision without trace. The region from which they come is not the astral plane, but corresponds to the locus or talus. Students of esoteric matters will understand these terms. Could somebody explain to me what that means? Because I do not know yet. They probably cannot be reached by radio, but can be by radar if a signal system can be devised for that apparatus. We give information and warning and can do no more let the newcomers have kindness unless the discs. Let the newcomers be with every kindness unless the discs are withdrawn. It's hard to read this part down here. Our culture and science is incapable of explaining this currently. A heavy responsibility is upon the few in authority who are able to understand this matter. Then there's an addendum, nanu. The locus are oval shaped. Heat-resisting metal or alloy not yet discovered. The front part contains the controls. You can see right here, this is the teletype, the decoded copy. I'll leave a link for this because there's 69 pages in total. And it goes on and it discusses some top military brass that were on a mission. And some speculate they actually attacked one of these craft. Some speculate that they had remains of one of these craft. And the person, the top brass, died in the crash. There was a crash. They don't know what caused it. Could it have been from one of these saucers? Now, if these saucers can disintegrate things at will and fly over the White House, I had a guest on the show, Wilbur Allen, real nice guy, a couple years ago. He's got tons of pictures of these craft over D.C., over the White House. Now, it gets really deep when you think about the possibility of the Greys being this lamb archetype that Crowley made contact with in 1918. And then Parsons, Hubbard, and I don't remember who else was involved in this, in the Babylon working, I was going to say Babylon, they might have opened this portal even bigger. And then 6 months later, there's all sorts of sightings of these craft. Some speculate even that Crowley, by making contact with Lamb being connected with Aiwa's, which was his guardian angel, he said. Aiwa's is also, he says, according to the Christian perception, would be the Antichrist or the devil, Satan. And then Parsons believed that this Scarlet Woman, the Whore of Babylon, that they wanted to bring into the physical form via sexual magic, was actually good and a part of the new age of Horus, and those that saw her as evil or bad or wicked were a part of the dying age of Osiris. So now that this connection's been made, now that this portal has been opened, did they close it, or are they being more cautious now and showing themselves? I've had guests on the show like John D'Souza, former FBI, 25 years, very intelligent man. He's written a couple of books. He told me about an experience that he had on the show when he was a kid, almost got abducted, literally got pulled up to the ceiling by some type of beam, and then he bounced off the ceiling and fell back on the floor. Pretty wild. You should definitely listen to that interview if you haven't already. It's John D'Souza. Just look up his name. It's on YouTube, and you'll see that the #1 viewed podcast, I think that's one of the best shows that he's done. Incredible show. I'm going to have him back on. He talks about a lot of stuff. He's been on twice. Really good interviews both times. Brought something new to the table each time, but check that out. He discusses how aliens, extraterrestrials, are interdimensional. And they're not from other planets, at least the ones that we see now, but they're actually very similar to the description in this declassified file. Now, I still personally believe there are extraterrestrials from other planets, without a doubt. That's my belief. I've had personal encounters before that, hey, maybe they were interdimensional. Maybe they were here from another planet. Maybe it was highly concentrated swamp gas from Uranus. Whatever they were awesome. And, I felt like they were more than just, but I guess interdimensional, that could be physical as well, right? So interdimensional could be all of the above. They were fascinating nonetheless. But I've had 3 experiences over the past 4 years where I've actually seen something in the skies that I can't explain. Actually 4, because the rod that I saw, this huge rod that was, I don't know how high up it was, in Utah, saw them a week apart. First time I saw it was by myself in northern Utah on the freeway. The second time I was with my coworker in southern Utah, and he saw it with me. It was fascinating. It was like this rod-shaped UFO, and then it just kind of went zzz and disappeared. I don't know if that had the ability to go in and out of physical existence, like in Dune. The spice extends life. The spice expands consciousness. Whatever it was fascinating. But the 2 times after that, the description, the reason I bring this up is it reminds me of something that was talked about in these files that you need to read. You need to go through all of these files. And there was a multitude of them, and they kind of looked like birds, but they were so far away, they definitely weren't birds. And they would flock out, and there would be a multitude of them, and then they would go back into one. And then they would come out, and then they would go back into one. And I was so excited when I saw it that I busted out my cell phone and I tried to record it. You couldn't see anything, but I'm like, hey, can you see that? This is so exciting. I'm just driving home. I'm almost to my house, and it was just one of the coolest things. Because they would come out, and they would do these formations, and they would go back, and then it'd be one piece, and then... And anyway, they were like black or dark colored the first time. Recently, in the hill country in Austin, let's go back here for a second. The next morning, I wake up at like 4 o'clock in the morning, and it sounds like there's like this, and it was so powerful you could feel it. Nobody's mowing the lawn. The air conditioning's not on. The fan's not on. Nobody's parked out in front of our house. It was just this weird woo, 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 woo. Wife woke up to it too. We're walking around the house. We're looking outside trying to figure out what it is. Lasted for about 15, 20 minutes. Then, recently in the hill country, an experience where I see something very similar, like it's a flock of birds in the distance, but they're so far away you can tell that they're not birds, and they would form out, but this time they're white, and they would go back into one, and they would bounce out. There'd be a multitude of them, and they would go back and form into one. So I didn't wake up the next day with that weird woo, 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 woo. But one of the descriptions in these files, this kid is sitting on his porch, and this is in 1947, and he sees these things moving around like they're balloons, but they're way out past airplanes. So they're not balloons, but that was the best way that this kid could describe them. And he even took pictures of them, and these pictures were put in the paper, and you can see these pictures, but they're copied in black and white, and the picture quality is terrible. You can't even see what they look like. It'd be neat to get access to the original images. So I'm wondering if I saw something similar. Maybe it was just a flock of birds that was further out than an airplane would be. So, pretty bizarre, pretty bizarre. So what do you guys think about the connections of the Greys? Maybe there's also a being that looks similar to the Greys, but is far advanced, much larger, similar to, once again, this picture right here. Now, let me show you this also. I'm going to show you this image of looks just like lamb or a gray on the dollar here. Stand by. Will you just look at it? Not yet. All right, here we go. Boom. Check that out. Does that not look like a gray? And look at the center where the third eye is located. Check out the double star right there in the center eye. Now, there's a very real chance that oftentimes when people are abducted and they have encounters with these little gray men, they're not the same as Lamb or that archetype. They are most likely genetically engineered beings designed for specific purposes. There's different levels of intelligence. Daryl Sims brings some good information that I think, if he's accurate on the Greys and the different levels of Greys and the different types of ETs, many of the experiences people have with extraterrestrials are actually cloned. Doesn't mean they're not real, doesn't mean they don't have a soul, but it means that they've been cloned. Maybe they do, maybe they don't, I don't know. There's varying opinions on that. Also, let's say that the Anunnaki are real. Let's say that these beings that we're looking at via Lamb is one specific archetype of a being that can change form, maybe can change into a human form or a form of a lion or a crow or whatever archetype it chooses to, because it's interdimensional. There's a lot of people that listen to the show. I've had a guest on before, Boris Starcy. This guy, man, talk about some crazy footage. He'll be in New York City, downtown Brooklyn, lunch break. he's a barber. He'll go outside and he'll start recording the skies, and you'll see these discs coming in and out and just doing all these weird things. And they kind of look like balloons, but you can tell they're not balloons by the way they're moving and the way that they come in. They change shape. It's very cool. And Boris, real nice guy. I need to get him back on the show. There's a gal that sent me an image that listens to Leak Project that's in the live chat a lot. She lives in Australia. And this image, you can see this metallic, looks like a metallic balloon. And she talks about how these things come in and out sometimes and visit her in the skies. So there's a lot of very interesting possibilities. Now, maybe they can take on any shape or form in this physical realm, and that's what's discussed in that file, that declassified file. Maybe that's why we don't hear more radar signals or radio signals from the cosmos. There's been a few that have been publicly documented. So I certainly feel that there's other beings out there, but you would think that there would be more, or at least we would have access to more of these radio signals, unless there's something blocking it from the outside. Maybe we can let the information out, but we can't get it coming from the inside, some type of quarantine or something. So there you have it. Thank you for bearing with me yesterday. I apologize about the technical difficulties. Let's hope that we didn't have any problems with this recording issue here. And check out the forums.leakproject.com and start leaving some information. I mean, you guys do such an incredible job here on youtube.com/clandestine Time Lord, and I appreciate that. A lot of people have asked for an avenue to leave more information. So more blog style, more of a forum where you can write 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pages and go back and just be an independent journalist and get your information out there to the world. I see this taking off pretty quick. I mean, it just got set up yesterday and people are already registering and signing up. It's totally free. Forums.leakproject.com. Be excellent to each other and be the change you want to see.